what clicked for you when you really, because you've been in this over a decade, you've been studying money and in this world for so long. I would love for you to touch on this and just explain to people what your orange pill moment was and just your journey of just coming to Bitcoin and then seeing it clicking, and then as you're going down the rabbit hole, how much time you're spending going down this rabbit hole. So I'd love for you to unpack this a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there are a few seminal moments for me, to be honest. The first I should say is I come from an ETF background. ETFs are tools that people use to invest. I was very early in that industry. Started running ETF.com, my company I ran before Bitwise, when ETFs were a few $100 billion. Now they're 15, 30 trillion. I bring up that story because people love ETFs today, but they hated them originally. There were congressional hearings about ETFs destroying the American dream. The Financial Times labeled them weapons of mass destruction. There were countless Twitter arguments about how they're horrible for investors. Vanguard labeled them like tools of mass insanity or something. And I bring all that up because my experience in my career before crypto existed was that you could have a financial technology that's better for the world, that makes things cheaper, lower cost, more tax efficient, more fair, and the world can hate it and they can be wrong. And my experience in the ETF career was like watching the world wake up to this thing that I looked at and was like, this is just better. And the world eventually came around to that view. And that's important to me because when you first encounter crypto, the world has the same reaction to it. It's this new financial technology that people are skeptical of, that people call weapons of mass destruction, that's whatever has died 13,000 times, that's got negative articles in Time, in the Financial Times, et cetera, that has congressional hearings, that has senators launching wars against it. And I think it was important to my journey that I had seen the world be completely wrong about something. And that gave me confidence that when I started looking at crypto and it resonated with me, that maybe the world was wrong again. So I think that was really helpful. The next sort of, so I was primed for it. The real moment started with me with just one very serious person, a woman named Kathleen Moriarty, who was the first lawyer on the first ETF. She's a legend. She told me to take it seriously. And before then, I had been aware of it, but I never spent any time studying with it. But when you have someone you respect, and this was in 2012, 2013, tell you to take this thing seriously, it really makes you focus on it, right? Because here's something that was still viewed as a plaything that no one was evaluating. And this legend in the financial space, who I greatly respected, told me to take a look at it. And as I dug into it, it's not that hard to understand. That's one of the beauties of Bitcoin. At a superficial level, you can read the white paper and you can understand it. The elegance of it, the efficiency of it, the fairness of it, all just resonated with me and pattern matched to what I'd seen with ETFs and brought me into the crypto ecosystem. I will say this, my appreciation for the need for a new form of money in society has increased substantially since I got full-time involved in crypto. So when I joined Bitwise in early 2018, I understood how it worked. I thought it had a role to play. I really appreciated the efficiency and elegance of the system. I appreciated the ideas of decentralization. The technology seemed inevitable to me, but I didn't appreciate how much the world needed a new form of money. And that may be because its need has become so much more apparent post-COVID and post the drastic acceleration of debt. It's become like a nice to have to a must have to me. And my conviction, therefore, in not that I always was sure it would exist, but in how central it will be to society has really increased over the last 5 or 6 years. Really has changed, inflected in my mind.
That's a great story. Do you see in saying that, do you see the financial system being built? And again, we don't know the timeline. It could be 5 years, could be 50 years or what have you. But do you see the financial system, like you said, it was a nice to have? It's kind of like, oh, this is, I know Jeff Booth talks about this all the time, right? You can't fix the current system or the current reality within the current system. Do you see at some point the financial structure being built on top of Bitcoin, these rails, this industry, Lightning, the different layers, things that are being built? Is that kind of what you see when you extend out your horizon?
Yeah, I see. It definitely gets fuzzy as you get out. I see it being a central place. I feel great certainty.
I want you to predict the future, Matt. That's what I want.
Yeah, I know.
To predict the future
with precision. I have great certainty that Bitcoin will play a key role as a global geopolitical macro tool and a currency in the world setting, and have a place at the table as one of the world's reserve assets. And I have a great deal of confidence and extreme clarity that blockchain-based rails will be the way all assets move around the world. I think there is still to be seen, whether there are these savings tool in Bitcoin and then spending tools in stable coins, or whether Bitcoin plays a more central role. I think that remains to be played out. And I'm aware that legacy systems have a lot of weight, right? So when I think of Bitcoin as a investment, the way I describe it is you get this global monetary asset as your primary investment, and then everything else is like a free option that you get on top of it. So I do think it's all moving to blockchain-based rails, but I'm aware legacy systems have a lot of weight, and it may be that that stable coins play a role for quite some time, and token-based asset movement plays a role for quite some time.
Do you see, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you. Do you see a world, and again, it could be, I know a lot of people think that money, believe that money converges to one. I tend to be one of those people where it all converges to one. But again, it just takes time. The legacy world, like you said, has a lot of weight, a lot of pull. There's a lot of education to be done. Most people don't even own Bitcoin or crypto or whatever it is. So there is still this process that has to go through. When you look at Bitcoin versus some of the others, altcoins or whatever it is, do you see the other companies or other countries using private networks that they could perceivably be using versus Bitcoin, which is open, decentralized, like you said, a non-political currency? Like, when you look at that, how do you see things, and what do you see behind the scenes maybe that not everyone is privy to, where you are, because that, for me, I try to square that circle, and my answer always comes back to, well, it's got to be Bitcoin. If I was a random company, or if I was a country, I wouldn't put my trust in these other things. I would only trust the thing that's trustless. So, but that's my opinion. How do you see that unfolding?
Right. I mean, that's sort of like a classic power dynamic question, right? Because the reason you
Prisoner's dilemma, game theory,
is the power of the regulatory state and the power of the existing system,
Yes.
and the power of sort of reputational things. And I think it's over long periods of time. And the reason Bitcoin wins out in many people's minds is that in an absolute sense, it should win out. But those power dynamics are very personal, right? And they're very strong in many cases. And, we shouldn't be naive that those can persist for long periods of time. It's very possible that you get multiple systems around the world. It's very possible that it's idiosyncratic. I think the important thing for the world is that the Bitcoin system exists, even if it just acts as a release valve, right, to keep these other systems in line. I think that's a huge benefit to the world. And that maybe is part of the dynamic as well, right? Like, even if we just go back to money, I've always said that there is a world where Bitcoin just acts as a brake on fiat abuse. And the existence of Bitcoin and the potential to fail over to Bitcoin means that fiat behaves better. That's actually that's actually a very positive world. And so right. I think there's some reflexivity into your question in terms of how these other systems behave, and how they line up against this other system. So yeah, really, really hard to know, but a great question.
If you like that clip, then you definitely got to check out this next spicy clip. I think you're really going to like it. Come on, check it out. But if you want the full version, the full interview, then check that out over here. Come on, do it. See you in there.